Hey there, do you want to learn how to become psychic? Well, you better stay tuned to this video because I have my amazing friend, Christina Courtney, who is a certified psychic here to tell you all about what you need to do to develop these skills. And I'm going to do a quick introduction of myself. First, my name is Valentine Lister. So I release a video every Wednesday. And if you want to make sure to catch it, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when I release a video. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to bring on my friend, Christina Courtney. Okay, so I want to welcome my friend, Christina Courtney. She is going to give us the lowdown on how to become psychic, and she's going to share with us her story and her journey in becoming a certified psychic. So Christina is an alignment coach, psychic, intuitive artist, and speaker who helps people who are ready for transformation evolve past their own limiting beliefs and align with their authentic selves so that they can live the blissful life that they were meant to live. Christina has a very broad spiritual background, including but not limited to being trained in nearly a dozen forms of energy healing, including working and traveling for the reconnections, and a Karuna Reiki master, is a certified psychic healer medium, and uses EFT regularly with her clients. She offers workshops, retreats, and one-on-one sessions locally as well as internationally. And after this interview, if you're really interested in learning more about her, you can visit her at ChristinaBCourtney.com, and I'm going to leave some links in the description below. So without further ado, welcome, Christina. I am so excited to speak to you on this.
Oh, thank you so much, Valentine. I'm so happy to be here. This is like one of my favorite things, is to have conversations like this. I'm so excited. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I want to get right into it. So for our viewers, like they probably want to know, how do you even become psychic? And even some people might have psychic abilities. How do they develop that? So how did you come on this journey where you actually got certified as a psychic healer?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, I was always really intuitive, even as a little kid. And I believe that all children, we come into this planet feeling really intuitive, but it gets really conditioned out of us. Our parents don't know how to help us develop those skills, or sometimes they feel fearful around it. And so we grow up feeling like we shouldn't have those instincts. We shouldn't be able to know that. So it's not really fostered in us. But in my own particular case, my dad was actually super spiritual, and he used to tell me things. I remember this one conversation when I was maybe like 6 or 7 years old, and he said, "Christina, you're God. Like, you can have anything you want, you can be anything that you want, but don't tell the kids at school because they'll think you're crazy."
Oh my goodness. It's like so empowering on the one hand, but then on the other hand, he's like, just hide it. And I think that's an experience a lot of people have. Like, I know I've had that myself of like, you have to hide this. Like, I know I have this gift and I have to hide it. So how did you navigate that?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's one of the biggest blessings that he gave to me growing up, but it was also one of the biggest obstacles that I had to overcome. So how did I navigate that? In the beginning, I mean, I was a child and I wanted to listen to my dad. And if he thought that people would think I was crazy and was coming at it fearfully, of course I shut it down. So I kind of became like this closet intuitive, or like closet spiritual person, where I had all these beliefs, so these understandings about how the world worked, and was really curious. And I feel like I looked at things from a different perspective, but I never let it out. Like, I didn't talk to people about it. I was always afraid of being judged, of feeling like I'm crazy, of people not wanting to be friends with me, or, I wanted to fit in. I was a kid. And so after shutting it down for years and years, it finally got to the point where it was just like, it was pulling me so strongly. Like, it was such a part of me that I needed to explore. And
so Christina, was there like an event or something that happened that like made you like say like, okay, it's time for this to come out?
Yeah. Yeah. It was actually a breakup. I was in,
I think that's so common, right? You have a big, like a heartbreak or pain. And then it's like, okay, like this is a wake up call.
it was, yeah. I got to the point where I was in my like early mid 20s and I did all the things that everybody said that you're supposed to do. I mean, I went to college, I met a great guy, I had an awesome career, I was making money, I was doing all the things that people said that you needed to do to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I wound up going through this amazing relationship that wound up ending. And it just totally rocked me to my core. And I just started questioning things. I was like, is this really what it's supposed to be happy?
Right. Right. This is life. Like, isn't there, like, there's got to be more because this really sucks. Like,
Totally. Yeah.
yeah.
So I think after that, I was going through that healing process of needing to redefine who I was outside of that relationship. And through that exploration, I was like, wow, I am missing a really big key component of who I am. And I don't want to enter another relationship not being this person, not being who I really am.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be happy if I'm always hiding a part of me. How can I meet an ideal match if I'm not authentic with myself?
Right.
Makes
Right.
sense. Yeah, so at that time, and also I was grieving. I had this hole in my life, from this
Mm-hmm.
person
Yeah. Yeah.
filled. And I wound up filling up that hole with intuitive development classes and energy healing and really delving into finding a community of people that had similar interests as myself. And that was such a profound, life-changing experience. It really just changed everything for me.
That's so cool. So how did you find places and connect? I know like people who are watching this video, if you're watching this video, you probably want to know like, well, where do I find that? Like, where do I go?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think the first step is making that decision within yourself. So I got to a point of clarity where I just decided I have to do this. And I was feeling intuitively guided. And I also believe that we're always being supported and we're always being pulled by the universe towards our highest good. So when we make a decision that we're ready for change, the opportunities and the teachers, the support will come into our life when we make that decision and we open ourselves up to it. So I think the first thing that happens is to be energetically open and to make that decision, which I did. And it just so happened, I made that decision. I went on my computer, I was Googling and I was guided to a meetup group. And then at the meetup group, there was this site and a facility that was like a healing. It just synchronistically came together. I don't even know exactly how it happened,
Yeah.
but I was ready and it showed up.
I can totally relate to that. That's been my experience too. Like once you like, like I prayed, I was like, God, like something has to change, or like I want to be connected, to like my purpose and my gifts to the world. And it is so crazy how after making that intention, the teachers come and the people come. And so and that being said, like how would someone know if they're truly being guided? Like if they, like, how did you know that those communities were right for you in developing like this next step?
Yeah, I think it's a feeling of rightness. Like I'm pretty sure, hopefully everybody that's watching this, you may have had an experience where, you just knew that something was right for you. It just felt right, or you feel like warm, or it feels like this is where I need to be. It's like that feeling of like home, that feeling of like resonance. And for me, it was just that resonance. I just knew, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what's right for me. And I often tell people, even in psychic development classes, or when I'm doing intuitive development practices, when you're debating between different choices, you can even just kind of visualize holding them in your hands. Like, do I do this, or like if it's two different centers that you're weighing, and kind of feel into the energy and really get connected to it. I mean, first you want to get, centered, feel peaceful and grounded, not be in an agitated state. And then you can even almost like feel how light or heavy one decision feels, and you always want to go with the lighter decision. So for me, this decision, when I was like really tuning into it, it just felt so light. It just rose to the top energetically. And that's kind of like a metaphor. Everybody's going to experience it a little bit differently, but I would go with the lightness and go with the love.
I think I'm hearing like you feel that loving like community, but it's like it feels good and you feel connected and accepted, I think, in that space. Because I think it's still a good question to ask, because like I think, you know, like I want to assume that like, you know, if someone's into psychic development and developing these beautiful like spiritual gifts, like that they're the right person. But like with all things, there's great teachers and awful teachers, like healthy communities and dysfunctional communities. And I think you like pointed out something so important of tuning into that intuitive piece of feeling whether it's right. And so I want to ask like myself, because you know I'm like a self-taught psychic, like I you know I've learned lots of like tools and been connected to people, but so I want to like understand like, so you're a certified psychic, so what kind of like certifications and programs are out there, and is there any like, you know, regulation? Is there any guidelines? Like if you want, you know, to be like professionally, like, I guess, you know, accredited.
Yeah. So the center that I wound up choosing, where I was feeling guided, wound up being with this person. Her name is Dr. Ann Reith. Mm-hmm. And I highly recommend her for anybody that's in the Southern California area.
Yeah.
She's absolutely amazing. Part of the reason that I chose her and was really like guided to work with her is because she has a program. Sidetrack. She to be a professor in psychology. So she actually used to teach therapists and used to work with people with special needs. She has such a broad background in the academic world. And so she was used to creating manuals. She was used to, you know, teaching people. She was used to having a really high standard of ethics. And for me, somebody who was like coming into it with maybe some shame around being intuitive or looking into my spiritual gifts, I really needed somebody who held a really high pedestal, like put it like a really high standard for what it should be. And I really found that with her, and that's what made me feel comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. And so if you're exploring different options, I would say go with something that resonates for you, and go with something that has a high standard of ethics and integrity, and that matches your personality. So for me, I'm more like analytical. I definitely have that part of me that really just tunes into people's emotions and feelings, and I just want to connect with them. But I did come from a background where I was taught that like you have to get good grades in school and you have to go to college in order to be successful. Yeah. So I had a lot of that conditioning already, and because of that, it really resonated with me to go with a program that had a lot of, you know, requirements, was super thorough, was a longer program, and really went into detail into all the different areas. I mean, we had to take a full day business course on just how to start a business. We had to take a full course on—
that's cool. That's
awesome. It was awesome. How to deal with people. Yeah. So there was all these different things that you would learn, like yourself as a therapist, you already have a lot of that training. I mean, you know.
Yeah. So if viewers don't know, I actually have a background as a psychotherapist. I was a psychotherapist before I started this work, and have fallen into being an intuitive tarot card reader, which I feel like is the coolest like healing modality ever. Yeah. But having that background was the psychotherapy background is so important to the work I do now. Yeah. And so, you know, I think that it's really cool to have that being taught, you know, in like in your school. And I think, so what I'm getting, and I know from my experience, there is no like regulatory board for psychic, and so like, and there's amazing teachers who just teach, like, you know, I know I go up on meetup.com and there's psychics and different schools and things. And so, I'm getting the sense like from you, Christina, and this actually has been my experience too, of that even like finding your teacher and developing those gifts has to be intuitively led. I know like as a professional, like having a professional background, having a graduate degree, like I look to like, okay, well, where's the school and what are the steps that I have to take, right? In a very logical, practical way. But this work is very it's opposite. It's like pre-logic, pre-thought. It's this like feeling of being guided, just kind of following your intuitive voice, like that inner voice, which always guides you very lovingly and is always there at the right time, like that synchronicity. Yeah, so I'm getting, and so before we finish up, I just have one more question too of, I think, so you went over like some of the things in the school. So like, what was your program like going through it? It sounds like there were different aspects that she was teaching you. Like tell me about like what it was like to be in the school and like what you guys did.
Yeah, so some of the things that I loved, some of the aspects about the program that I chose that I really loved is that it was all in person.
Mm-hmm.
So I got lots of community connection and support and experience practicing one-on-one with people.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really awesome. I know there's a lot of online programs, and for some people that may be the best choice for them, but what I really needed was to feel like a sense of community and that I wasn't alone in this and that I shouldn't be ashamed of what I was doing. So I needed that in-person connection in order to grow. And then I liked the regularity of it. I was often taking 2 or 3 classes a week, and it was all self-paced too. So I could take as many classes at once as I wanted to, or I could, spread it out more and slow down the pace. And it was a combination of like core subjects that we would take a course that it might be like the full day on something like how to deal with difficult people, or how to know if you need to refer them to a therapist, like needing to know these skills of, is this something that I can support them with, or is this something that I need to refer out to? Because I feel like it's a big responsibility. People are coming to you and they're, trusting you with some really vulnerable aspects of their life. And I feel like we need to take that seriously and be in the utmost integrity about that. Mm-hmm. So we had classes about that, which was just so helpful. And I know you got a lot of that in your training. And so for some people, maybe with your similar history, you may not need these types of classes or this kind of training. But for somebody like myself who didn't have that, I needed that. And it was a huge value. We also took classes on learning about, what the clairs are, which are, we'll talk about.
So I forgot to mention in the beginning, but we're going to be doing a 4-part series. I'm doing a 4-part series with Christina, like so exciting. So the next video is going to be how to develop like your psychic senses that you naturally have and really amplify them. And they're called the clairs. And we'll talk about that in the next video. And the third video, we're going to talk about how to practice. And the last video, we're going to be talking more about the ethics and how to practice, and some business advice as well, I think will fit in there. And I'm sorry, go ahead, Christina. I kind of.
Yeah, so and then there was a lot of practice time. So we got a lot of time working with other students, practicing your gifts, because I think that in order for you to, the first step is to really understand what intuition is. So we went completely over that. What is intuition? What is psychic ability? How does it work? How does it feel? How do you receive the messages? How do you learn the difference between what's your ego mind, your conditioned mind, or just your own thoughts, and the voice of intuition? Like really understanding the difference is super helpful. And I actually created a document to help you with that, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But
I'll link. Christina has a fantastic opt-in that tells you how to discern, like if you are listening to your intuitive voice or if it's like your ego, like your mind's getting in the way. And I'm going to link that in the description below. It's an awesome guide.
Thank you. Yeah, it was that was one of my biggest obstacles when I started this, is that I was getting these intuitive messages, and I'm sure that anybody watching, you guys have probably had these experiences where you've, felt this intuitive guidance, you maybe took action on it and you were right, or maybe you didn't take action and you're like, oh, I should have listened to that. Other times where you think that you have it and then it wasn't right, and you're like, well, wait, what how do I know if I'm listening to intuition or not? So I don't know. I love hearing those stories. So if anybody wants to comment their experiences down below, I would love to, create a conversation about what your experience has been, having those, getting those intuitive impulses, and how do you know if it is or isn't. So anyways, I have that document that can help you with that. But it really practice.
I'm sorry I always talk too much, but I think that's so important. I do, like, please share your experiences, because I think we've all had this if we do have some psychic ability, and even if you're just starting to explore it, if you have been exploring it, a lot of times we end up in hiding, right? Because in the past generations, I mean, literally, we were killed. Like, people who were psychic were murdered, burned at the stake or whatever, or hanged, or, it's pretty gruesome stuff. So we all have this like collective trauma. And now it's more safe to like come out and talk about it. And I think it's so helpful. So if you have an experience, please share below so that we can all feel less alone and more of a community, I think.
I love that. It's so awesome. Yeah. And so, going back to what the program was like, is it was just a lot of practice. And then before I could get certified, I actually had to have a certain number of hours giving readings to other people and getting feedback. And then at the time that I went through the program, which was quite a while ago, I actually had to do a reading for the owner of the certification program. Now it's a little bit different because it's just grown so much over the years, because it's such an awesome resource. But having to jump through those hoops, if you will, of doing all of those readings really gave me the confidence and the experience of knowing, like, okay, this is real, because your conditioned mind will kind of question it and be like, am I just making this up? Is this all just, silliness or whatnot? And the more you get that practice, and the more it builds your confidence and your ability to, and the more confident you are, the more you listen to the messages and the more you deliver them. So I feel like everything is so interconnected and beneficial. It was an awesome experience.
Totally. It's so cool. Thanks for sharing your experience. And I totally agree. I think like the practice part is so important. And actually I learned more about my intuition making mistakes, like when I have been off, because then you go, okay, well, what happens? Because I did have guidance, but it's like, okay, then I learned how to really tune into it and get better. So before we go, I want to ask you, if people are interested in more about the work you do and want to connect with you, how would they connect with you? And share about that.
Sure, yeah. So I created that document that we talked about, that basically it's how to know who's talking. So when you're hearing the voices in your head, helping to decipher between which voice you're listening to and what do each of the voices sound like. It's almost like they're different dialects of the same language, but they just sound slightly different, and we need to learn that. And through practicing, like you were saying, and trial and error, we need to let ourselves, get it wrong in order to find out when we're on track or off track. So if you would like to, we'll leave a link below where you can go and download this, and then that will also put you on my email list. And so then you can hear more from me about different programs or my offerings in the future. And then if you had any other questions, you're also welcome to email me. I also work one-on-one with people, teaching people these skills, and then also helping to coach people into their purpose and all different kinds of areas. So I'm here for you support. My email is christinabcourtney.com, and I'm sure we'll link that below.
I will put all the links below, any resources. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. We'll get the answer to you. And I know Christina's work. I've been in some of her trainings. She is fantastic. So definitely get on her email list so you can get notified of what's going on. All right. Thank you so much, Christina. I'll be seeing you soon. We're going to be connecting again. Our next video is going to be on learning the clairs, what your psychic sense is, and going more in depth about like how to really tune into them and how to hear them. So
Yay.
Looking forward to that. Thanks so much.
Thank you.